Hi everybody, welcome to GTCoding. I have combined all the videos in the Apple navigation menu design series into this single long video, and I will also leave the link of the playlist in the description of this video. So if you want to watch all the videos separately, you can watch that, and I will also leave the link of the source code and also the starter files. So let's get started. So this is the official website of Apple, apple.com, and we can see this is the navigation menu of Apple. So we're going to design this navigation menu in this series, and we're also going to add the animations. So we can see that when we click on this search icon, we have this animation over here, and when we click on this close button, we have this animation. So we can see that we have some animation for each of the menu items as well when we click on the search button. So we'll create all of this in this series, and we'll also make it responsive. So let's check out the responsive version of apple.com. Let me just go to the inspector, and let's click on this button called toggle device toolbar, and let's take a look at the mobile version of the Apple website. So let's decrease the width, and we can see that when we are on the mobile version, we have this kind of layout, and we have a menu icon, we have the logo in the middle, and we have this icon over here. And let's click on the menu icon, and we can see that we have these menu items displayed over here, and we also have an animation for this menu icon. So let's click on it once more. We can see it changes to a close button, and then we have this search bar over here, and when we click on the search input field, we have a different animation, and we have the quick links displayed over here, and we also have this cancel button. Let's click on the cancel button, and we are taken back to this screen over here, and when we click on this close icon, we are taken back to the original state. So these are all the things that we're going to design in this series, and we're going to try to make it look just like this Apple navigation menu over here. Now let me show you the finished project. So here we can see this is the finished project, and we have these menu items over here. Let's click on this search icon, and we have the animation just like the Apple website. And let's go to the responsive version. So this is the mobile version. Let's open the menu. So let's click on this menu icon, and we have the animation just like the Apple website, and we have the menu items displayed over here. Let's click on this search input field, and we have this cancel button over here. So everything looks almost the same as the Apple website. So this was just an introduction video, and I just wanted to show you the project. From the next video, we will start writing the code, and I hope that you will learn a lot of things in this series. Alright, in this video, we will just focus on these navigation menu items over here. So we'll just write the HTML and the CSS to make it look like this. So I have created a project called Apple Nav Menu, and I have this images folder over here, and in that we have all the images that we need. So we have the Apple logo, the bag icon, which is this icon over here, and the close icon, which is this icon when we click on the search button, and then we have the search icon. I'll provide the link of the starter files in the description of this video, so you can just download that. Alright, let's start by creating all the necessary files. First of all, let's create an index.html file, and then we'll create a CSS file. We'll just name it style.css, and we'll also create a JavaScript file. We'll just name it main.js. Alright, let's start with the index.html file, and in VS Code you have this shortcut where you can just type exclamation and press tab, and you'll have this basic HTML5 boilerplate code. And first of all, let's change this title. So we can see that the title over here is Apple, so let's change it to Apple. And we'll also link our style.css file over here. So in the head section, I'll just type link and press tab, and in the href I'll just type style.css, and here in the body we'll just link our JavaScript file. So I'll just type script :src and press tab, and here I'll just type main.js. Now first of all, let's get the link of the font that we're going to use. So here I'm in fonts.google.com. It provides free fonts for your websites. Now we're going to use a font that looks kind of similar to this font in the Apple website. So I'm going to use a font called Inter, and this is the font, and we're going to get two styles from here. So let's just add this. So I'll just click on select this style. Let's also select regular. So these are the two styles, light 300 and regular 400, and let's copy this link and add it to our HTML. So here in the head section, I'll just add the link of the fonts. Right now, let's start by creating a container division to hold everything. So we'll just create a division and we'll give it a class of nav container. And in that, we're going to have all these navigation menu items. So let's create a nav element. So I'll just type nav. And in that, we'll create an unordered list to add all the menu items. So we'll just create an li, and in that, we'll create anchor tags. And for the href, I'll just type hash. And the first menu item is this logo right here. Now we're going to add the logo in the CSS. So let's add a class over here so that we can target it in the CSS. So I'll just type class. And I will just give it a class of link logo. And we'll add the image in the CSS. Now let's create another list item, and in that we'll have anchor tag. And we have all these menu items over here, so I'll just quickly add all of these. And then for the last two list items, we have the icons. We'll add that using CSS, so I'll just remove this. And we'll just add some class over here. So I'll just type class equals, and we'll just give it a class of link search. And for this one, we will just give it a class of link bag. Alright, that's it with the HTML for the nav menu items. So I'll just add a comment over here. So to add a comment, you can just press Ctrl and /. And I'll just type end of navigation menu items. And let's open this in our browser. So I have this extension over here called live server. So you can go to extensions and search for live server and just go ahead and install it. And once you install it, you will have this option when you right click over here in the HTML called open with live server. So let's just click on that. And here we can see all the nav menu items are being displayed. Now let's start styling it. So let's go to the CSS file. And first of all, let's add some resetting styles. So I'll just type asterisk, and this will target all the elements. So I'll just type margin 0 and padding 0, and also box sizing of border box. Now this line of code makes your calculation of height and width easier. If you don't know what is box sizing border box, I have a video on that, and I'll leave the link in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and check that out. And I think we'll also target the after and the before elements. So I'll just type comma asterisk colon colon after and asterisk colon colon before. So now it will target all the elements and set the margin and the padding to 0. So now we can see that we don't have any margin or padding. Alright, now let's add some styles to the body. So I'll just type body, and here I'll just add font family, and the font that we are using is Inter. So we can see the font called Inter over here. So let's add that over here, and we'll also add sans serif, and let's set the default font weight to 300. And we will add one more property called overflow y, and we'll set it to scroll. Now we are adding this because if you go back to the Apple website and if you click on the search icon, we can see on the right we still have this scroll bar. It is not scrollable, but we still have the scroll bar, and it makes the design a little bit more consistent. So that's why we added the overflow y to scroll. Now we can see we have this scroll bar here by default. Alright, now let's go ahead and style the nav container. So we have this container division called nav container. Let's target that. So I'll just type a comment. I'll just type desktop nav, and we'll just type dot nav container. And first of all, let's set the background color to RGBA 0000.8, and let's set the height to 44 pixels, and we'll set the z index to 300 so that it will be above all the other elements. And we'll also set the position to fixed. And now since we have set the position to fixed, we can see that it has lost the width. So we have to type left position to 0 and top to 0 and the right position to 0. Now it has the 100% width. Alright, now let's target the nav inside the nav container. So for this nav, we will have a set width of 1000 pixels. So let's type nav container nav, and we will set the width to 1000 pixels, and we'll set it to the center. So I'll just type margin 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right we'll type auto. And now it is in the center. So if I just give it a background color, we can see that this is the nav element and it is in the center. We'll also give it a padding to the left and the right, so I'll just type padding 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right we'll have 8 pixels of padding. And now let's target the unordered list. So here we can see we have this unordered list. We'll also give it a class, so I'll just type class of desktop nav, and let's style that over here. So I'll just type nav desktop nav, and now we want all these elements to be one next to the other, so we can do that using display of flex, and we can see all the elements are one next to the other. Let me just change the color of the text so that we can see it clearly. So let's target the anchor tags, so I'll just type nav desktop nav lia, and we'll just set the color of the text to white. And while we are still here, let's add some more styles, so I'll just type text decoration to none to get rid of the underlines, and we'll also set the font size to 14 pixels, and we'll set the opacity to 0.8, and when we hover over this we want the opacity to turn back to 1. So let me just add a transition to opacity and we'll give it 400 milliseconds. And now let's style the hover state, so I'll just type nav desktop nav lia hover, and we'll just set the opacity to 1. Now when we hover over this we can see that we have the opacity set to 1. Right, now let's go back to the desktop nav, and here we can see that everything is sticking to the left. So for that we can use a property called justify content and set it to space between. So now we can see that everything is spread across correctly, and let's also bring it to the center vertically. So I'll just type align items to the center, and I think it doesn't have the correct height, so let's go back over here to the nav and we'll just add a height of 100% of the parent, and even for the desktop nav we will just add a height of 100%. Now it is in the center, and let's also remove these bullets from here. So for that we can just type list style and we'll set it to none. Now the last thing we will do in this video is add the icons and the logo. So let's go back over here to the HTML, and here we can see for this anchor tag we have a class called link logo. So let's target that. So here I'll just type link logo, and let's set the background to URL, and we'll just type the link of the image. So I'll just type images / apple logo.svg, and let's set the display to block, and now let's position it to the center. So I'll just type background position and we'll set it to center, and let's set the height to 44 pixels, and let's also set the background size to, let's say, 18 pixels, and we'll set the width to 20 pixels. And now we can see that the logo is being displayed over here, but it is being repeated. So let's go over here and type background repeat, and we'll set it to no repeat. And now we can see that we have this Apple logo over here. I think we can reduce the width a little bit, so I'll just set it to 15 pixels, and we'll just remove background size from here. Alright, that looks fine. Now let's go ahead and add the two images over here on the right. We have the search image and also the bag image. So here we can see we have these classes link search and link bag. So I'll just copy this because the CSS is almost the same, and here we will type link search, and instead of Apple logo we'll just type search icon, and let's change some values over here. We'll just change the width to 20 pixels, and I think we can decrease the background size a little bit. So I'll just type background size and we'll set it to 18 pixels. Now let's add the bag icon, so I'll just type link bag, and we'll just change this to bag icon, and we'll just change some values over here. So I'll just type background size and we'll set it to 17 pixels, and we'll set the width to some higher value, so I think 20 pixels. Alright, that looks alright. So now our navigation menus are ready. So we can see when we hover over these we have the white color and everything is working alright. So that is basically it with this video. We have designed the Apple navigation menu items. Now in this video we will design the search form and the quick links. So let's go to the Apple website and let's click on this search icon, And here we can see we have this search form where we can type anything we want. And here we have the quick links, and when we hover over this we have this effect, and we also have a backdrop over here outside the quick links. So this is what we will design in this video, and in the next video we will add the animation. So let's get started. This is our source code. So let's go to the end of the nav. So let's go over here and create a new division, and we'll give it a class of search container. So let's go back and see what are the things we need. So first of all, we need to have the search icon, and then we need to have the search input field, and then we need to have this close button. So let's go over here and let's create a division with the class of link search. And in this division we will have the search icon, and in our CSS we have already added some styles over here. So here we can see for link search we have the background image set to search icon. Right now for the search input field, let's create a division, and we'll give it a class of search bar, and we'll create a form, and we'll just leave the action blank, and here we'll type input, and we'll also add a placeholder. So the placeholder is searchapple.com. so let's type that over here. And if you go back to our design, we can see that we have this input field, and we have the placeholder searchapple.com. Alright, now let's also add the close icon. So here we'll create a division with the class of link close, and we will add the close icon to this division using CSS. Alright, now the next thing we will do is we will add these links. So for this we'll create a division with the class of quick links. So after this close icon, let's create a division, and we'll just give it a class of quick links. And in this we need to have a heading. So here we can see this is the heading. So let's create an h2, and here we'll just type quick links, and then we need to have the list of these links over here. So for that we'll create an unordered list. So let's type ul, and in that we'll have list items, and in that we'll have anchor tags, and let's add the links. So the first one is visiting an Apple Store FAQ, and in the same way we'll just add all the other links. Right, so I have added all the links, and let's go back to our design, and here you can see we have the search form, we have the quick links and all the links displayed over here, and we also have the icons, but they are not being displayed because I think the icon color is white. And we also need to add a division for the overlay or the backdrop. So when we click on the close button, we don't have any backdrop and everything is visible clearly, but when we click on the search icon, we have this dark color at the background. So for that let's add a division. So we'll go all the way outside this nav container. So here let's create a division, and we'll give it a class of overlay. Now for the overlay we will add and remove a class called show. So if you have the class called show inside overlay, then we will display the overlay, and if you don't have the show class, then we will not display the overlay. Now we will add and remove these classes using JavaScript, but for now let's style everything. Now even for the search container we'll be adding and removing a class called hide. So by default we will have a class called hide over here, and when we have the hide class we won't be displaying this search form and these quick links. But when we click on the search icon, so this icon right here, we're going to remove the hide class from the search container, and it will be displayed on our screen. So now since we are styling this search container, let's remove the hide class from here, and I think that's it with the HTML. So let's go to our CSS and start styling our search container. So this is our search container as of now. So let's add a comment, and let's type search container. First of all, let's add some styles for the hide class. So let's type search container dot hide, and make sure that you don't have any space between these two classes, because we want the division to have both these classes. So when we have the hide class in search container, we want to set the opacity to 0 so that it won't be seen, and we'll also set the pointer events to none so that no one can click on any of the links. Alright, now let's start with the search container division. So let's type search container. Let's go back to the HTML and test whether it works. So here we will add the hide class, and now we can see that the search container is not being displayed, and when we remove the hide class we can see that it is being displayed. Now since we are styling this, we will just hide this menu items for now temporarily. So let's go to the top, and for the now I will just add an inline style. So I'll just type style equals display none. Right now the menu items are not being displayed, and we can style our search container. So let's go back to style.css, and we will set a width of 60%, and we will bring it to the center. So I'll just type margin 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right we'll type auto. And now the search container is in the center. Let me just add a background color, and we can see this is the search container. Alright, now let's add some padding to this search container. So let's type padding 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right we will have a padding of 42 pixels. And now we want to position this search icon and also the close icon relative to the search container. So for that we have to type position, and we have to set relative over here, and we'll also set a z index for the search container. So we'll just set a z index of 200 so that it will be above the contents of the website. Alright, now let's set the position of the search icon. So here we'll type search container link search, and we'll set it to position absolute, and we'll set the left position to 12 pixels, and we'll also set the opacity to 0.5. Right, now let's style the search form. So if you go to the index.html file, we can see we have the search input field inside the form. So let's style the form. So we'll just type search container and form. And for the form we will set a width of 100% of the parent, and we'll also set it to the center. So I'll just type margin 0 auto. And now let's style the input field. So let's type search container form input, and let's set the width to 100%, and we will set the height to 44 pixels, which is the height of the nav container. And we will remove the border. So I'll just type border 0. And when we click on this search icon, we have this outline. So we'll also remove that. So let's type outline, and we'll set it to none. Now when we click on this search icon, we don't have any outline. Alright, now we have to remove the white background color. So let's type background, and we'll set it to transparent. Alright, now let's set the color of the text. So I'll just type white. So now we can see we have the white text color. Alright, let's set the font family to Inter sans serif, and we'll also set the font size to 17 pixels. Alright, that's it with the input field. Now let's add the close icon. So if we go back to the index.html file, we can see we have created a division with a class of link close. So in our CSS, if we scroll up, we can see we have added some styles for the link logo, link search, and link back. So let's copy one of these from here, and let's paste it down here, and we will add some styles for the link close. So for the link close, we will add the close icon. So I'll just type close icon.svg. So these icons are inside the images folder in our project. So these are all the images. You can find the link of these images in the description of this video. Right now we cannot see the close icon because it is white in color, and we also have the background color as white. So first of all, let's position the close icon here in this nav container. So here in our search container, let's add some styles for the link close. So I'll just type search container link close, and we'll set the position to absolute, and we'll set the top position to 0, and the right position to 12 pixels. Let's also set the opacity to 0.5. And when we hover over this, we want to have a different cursor. So if you go back to the Apple website, and here you can see when we hover over this, we have the pointer. So let's type cursor pointer, and now when we hover over this, we have the pointer. And when we hover over this, we also want to change the opacity. So let's just add a transition of all to 400 milliseconds, and let's add a hover state. So here I'll just type search container link close colon hover, and we'll set the opacity to 0.7. And now let's hover over this, and we can see that the color is changing. Alright, that's it with the search form. Alright, now let's style the overlay. So if you go back to the index.html file, here we can see we have created a division with a class of overlay. So when we have the show class in the overlay, we want to display the overlay. So let's add some styles for that. So here I'll just type overlay, and let's type overlay.show. And first of all, let's set the position to fixed, and we will set a background color of RGBA 000 and 0.48. So this overlay should cover the whole screen. So let's set a width of 100% and a height of 100 viewport height. Now we can see that the overlay covers the whole screen. And just to make sure, let's also set the left position to 0 and the top position to 0. And we'll also set a z index of 100. Alright, now let's start styling these quick links. So let's add a comment. Just type quick links. So let's type search container and quick links. This is the class that we had given to the quick links. And first of all, let's set the background color to white. And let's set the position to absolute. And we'll set the left position to 0 and the right position to 0. And we are positioning this relative to the search container. So we can see for the search container, we had already added position of relative. Alright, so now let's add a padding of 16 pixels for top and bottom, and for left and right we will add a padding of 8 pixels. And let's set a border radius. So here we can see we have this border radius at the bottom left and the bottom right. So let's add that. So for top left and top right we have 0, and we have 16 pixels for bottom left and bottom right. So here we can see we have the border radius. And now let's style the h2. So let's type search container quick links h2, and we'll set the text transform to uppercase and the font size to 12 pixels and the color of the text to 6E6E73. And we'll also set a margin of 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right we will have 32 pixels of margin, and we'll also give it a margin top of 10 pixels. Right, now let's style the unordered list. So let's type search container quick links ul, and let's remove the bullets. So I'll just type list style to none, and let's also set a margin top of 12 pixels. Alright, now let's style all these anchor tags. So let's type search container quick links ullia. We don't have a width of 100% for these anchor tags, so if I give it a background color, we can see we don't have 100% width. So if you go back to the Apple website, we can see that when you hover over this, we can see it has 100% width. So for that we have to change the anchor tags to display of inline block. So let's type display of inline block, and let's also set a width of 100%. Now we can see it has a width of 100%. So let's remove this background color. Now let's set a padding of 8 pixels top and bottom and 50 pixels left and right, and we'll set the font size to 14 pixels, and we'll set the color of the text to 1D1D1F, and we'll also remove the underline. So we'll just type text decoration to none, and we'll also set the font weight to 400. Right, now when we hover over this, we want to have some background color, and also the color of the text is changing. So let's do that. So here we'll type search container quick links ullia hover, and we want to change the background color to F5 F5 F5, and we'll set the color of the text to 2997FF. Right, now let's hover over this, and we can see we have the background color and the color of the text changing. So that's basically it with the design of the search form and the quick links. Now in the next video we will add the animation to the search container and also the menu items. Now in this video I'll show you how to add the animation. So if you go to the Apple website, we can see these are the menu items, and if you click on the search button, we can see there is an animation and the search form and the quick links are displayed. And when we click on this close button, we have the animation. Now there are multiple animations over here. So for each of these menu items, we have an animation where the opacity is changing to 0 and also the size is decreasing. So let's click on this once more, and we can see the animation for the menu items. And for the search form and the quick links, we have an animation where they are fading in from the right. So these are all the animations that we need to add to our navigation menu. So let's get started. First of all, let's remove the inline style that we added to our menu items. So here for the nav, we have added this style display of none. So let's remove it. Now there's a problem with this search container. It has moved down. We want it to be positioned at the top. So let's go to our style.css, and let's go to the search container styles. So here we have set the position to relative. Let's set it to fixed, and let's set the top position to 0, and to bring it to the center we'll type left 0 and right 0. Right now we don't have any problems. Now we have already added some styles for the search container hide. So if we have the hide class in the search container, it will not be displayed. So let's go back to our index.html file and let's add the hide class, because by default the search container won't be displayed. So let's type hide over here. So this is how the navigation menu will be displayed at the beginning. And when we click on the search button, we want to display the search container. And we also want to hide these menu items when we click on the search icon. So for that, we'll be adding a class called hide for this desktop nav. So let's add the styles for that. So I'll just type hide over here. And let's go to our style.css. And let's scroll to the bottom and we'll create a comment, desktop nav animation. So here we'll type desktop nav dot hide li. So here we can see inside the desktop nav we have these li's. So we will set the opacity of all the li's to 0. So let's type opacity 0, and we'll also set the pointer events to none. Now we can see that the list items are not being displayed, and when we remove the hide class, we can see that they are being displayed. Alright, now let's add some JavaScript to make all this work. So we have to reference some of these elements from the HTML inside the JavaScript. So first of all, we have to reference the search button, and then we also want to reference the close button inside the search form. And then we also want to reference the desktop nav because we want to add and remove the hide class. And then the next thing we need to reference is the search container. So here also we have this hide class which we will be adding and removing using JavaScript. And the last thing we need to reference is the overlay. So we have this class called show, so we want to add and remove that. So let's reference all of these in our JavaScript, and we have already linked our main.js file over here in the HTML. So let's go to the main.js file and let's create a constant, and we will name it search button, and we'll type document.querySelector, and let's go back to our HTML and see how to reference the search button. So it is inside the nav, and inside the desktop nav we have this anchor tag with the class of link search. So let's reference that. So here we have to type nav desktop nav link search. So this will store the search icon inside the search button constant. Let's create another constant for the close button. So just type const close button equals document.querySelector. And let's see how to reference the close button. So if we scroll down, we can see we have the search container division, and in that we have the link close division. So this is the close button. So let's reference that. So we'll type search container link close, and then the next thing we will reference is the desktop nav. So this URL right here. So let's type const desktop nav equals document.querySelector desktop nav, and we'll also reference the search container. So I'll just type search container equals document.querySelector search container, and the last thing we need to reference is the overlay. So I'll just type const overlay equals document.querySelector and overlay. Alright, now let's add an event listener to the search button. So I'll just type search button add event listener, and we will type click over here. Now when we add an event listener, it will check for an event, and when we have the click event on this search button, it will execute the code that we have in our function. So let's create an arrow function over here. When we click on the search button, we want to add the hide class to the desktop nav. So let's type desktop nav dot class list dot add, and we'll type hide over here. And then we want to remove the hide class from the search container. So let's type search container class list dot remove, and we'll type hide. And then we also need to add a show class to the overlay. So let's type overlay dot class list dot add, and we'll type show. And we don't want to have the show class inside the overlay by default, so let's remove it from here. Alright, now let's test it. So let's click on the search button, and we can see that the desktop nav has been hidden, and we have the search container displayed over here. And now let's add the event listener to the close button. So let's go back to our main.js, and it is almost the same as this code. So let's copy this and paste it down here, and we'll change search button to close button, and we want to remove the hide class from the desktop now, so I'll just type remove instead of add over here. And for the search container, we want to add the hide class, so I'll just type add over here. And from the overlay, we want to remove the show class, so I'll just type remove over here. Now let's test it out. So let's click on the search button, and we have the search container displayed over here. And let's click on the close button, and we can see that the menu items are being displayed over here. So everything is working all right. Now in the Apple website, we can see that when we click on the search icon, and if we click somewhere outside the search container, the nav menu items are being displayed once more. So for that, we can add an event listener to the overlay. So we'll just copy this and paste it down here, and here I'll just type overlay. Right now let's test it out. So let's click on the search button, and we have the search container displayed over here. And if you click outside the search container, it goes back to the menu items. Alright, now let's go back to our CSS and add some animation. So right now the buttons are working alright. Now let's add some transition to the desktop nav. So I'll just access that. So I'll just type desktop nav li, and here I'll just type transition of all to 400 milliseconds, and for the easing function I'll just type ease. Now let's click on the search button, and we can see that we have a smooth transition between the two states. And when we click on the search button, we also want to decrease the size of these elements. So here we can see the size is decreasing. So here we will type transform scale, and we'll set the scale to 0.8. And now let's test it out, and now we can see that it is scaling down. Let's also add a smooth transition to the overlay. So here we will add a comment. I'll just type overlay animation, and here we'll just type overlay, and here we'll type transition of all to 400 milliseconds ease. Alright, now let's click on the search button, and we have the transition for the overlay. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to add some animation delay for each of these individual menu items. So if you go back to the Apple website, and if you click on the search button, the last element over here has the animation first, and then we have some delay, and then we have the animation for the search button, and then for this element, and then for the previous element, and so on. So let's click on this search button. So we can see we have a little bit of delay between each of these menu items. So let's add the delay to our animation. So let's go back to our style.css, and here we'll just add a comment. So here we'll just type navigation menu items transition delay. Now we can select specific list items using the nth of type selector. So for example, if I type desktop nav li colon nth of type, and if I type 10 over here, because we have 10 elements over here, and here if I'll type transition delay, and let's set a transition delay of 1000 milliseconds. Now let's click on the search button, and we can see that we have a transition delay of 1000 for the last element. So in this way, we have to select each of these elements and add different transition delays. Now we can add transition delays based on whether we have the hide class for the desktop nav or not. So let's type desktop nav.hide li nth of type, and let's type 10 over here. And if I type transition delay to 0 milliseconds over here, and we can see that we don't have any transition delay at the beginning, but when we click on the close button, we have a transition delay of 1000 milliseconds. So with this knowledge, let's go ahead and add different transition delays to all the list items. So let me just delete all of this, and let's type 1 over here. And if we go back to the Apple website, when we click on the search button, the last element has the transition delay of 0, and when we click on the close button, the first element has the transition delay of 0. So we have to keep that in mind when we add the transition delay. So let me give you an example of how we can do that. So here we can see we have selected the first element when the desktop nav doesn't have the hide class, and we'll add a comma, and we'll type desktop nav.hide, and we'll type li nth of type 10. Now we can see that we are selecting two elements, the first element and the last element. So the first element of the desktop nav with no hide class, and the last element of the desktop nav with the hide class. So let's add a transition delay of 0 for the first element, And in the same way, for the last element of the hide class, we have a transition delay of 0. And we will do the same with all the 10 elements. So let's copy this and let's paste it down here, and here we will type element 2, and here we will type 9, and here we'll set a transition delay of 30 milliseconds. And let's copy this and paste it once more, and here we will type 3, and here we will type 8, and here we will add a transition delay of 60 milliseconds. So the next element is the fourth element, so let's type 4 over here, and this is going to be the 7th element, and let's add the transition delay of 30, so here it will be 90 milliseconds. And in this way we will add the transition delay for all the other elements. So I just fast forward the process. So I have added the transition delay for all the elements. Now let's test it out. So let's click on the search button, and we have the transition delay, and everything is working alright. Now let's add the animation to the search form. So when we click on the search button, the search form is fading from the right to the left, and we have a little bit of delay for the search form to appear. So let's add that over here in the CSS. So let's add a comment over here, and we'll type search container animation. So let's type search container form, and also search container link search. And by default we have the hide class for the search container, so let's add some styles for that. So let's type search container dot hide form, and also search container dot hide link search, and at the beginning we will have the opacity set to 0, and we will also move it to the right a little bit. So let's type transform translate x, we will set it to 50 pixels. And now let's add the styles over here to the search container form. So here we'll type opacity and we'll set it to 1, and we'll set the transform translate x to 0. So now it will fade in from the right to the left, and we also want to have a transition delay. So let's type transition delay and let's set it to 300 milliseconds, and we'll also add a smooth transition. So I'll just type transition of all to 400 milliseconds ease. Right, now let's test it out. And we can see that the search form is being displayed, and we also have the animation. And let's reduce the opacity of the search button a little bit. So here we'll just type search container link search, and we'll type opacity to 0.6. Alright, now the next thing we will do is add the animation to the close button. Now we want it to appear a little late, so if you go to the Apple website and let's click on the search button, and we can see that the close button is displayed a little late. So let's add some animation for that. So let's type search container dot hide link close, and let's set the opacity to 0 at the beginning, and let's type search container link close, and here we'll set the opacity to 0.5, and let's type transition, and we will set a transition of all to 400 milliseconds and ease, and let's set a transition delay of 400 milliseconds. Right, now let's see whether we have the animation for the close button. So we can see that everything is working alright. Alright, now let's add the animation to the quick links heading. So for the heading we have an animation where it fades in from the right. So we have the same animation as the form, but we have different transition delays for each of these elements. So let's add the animation for that. So let's type search container dot hide quick links h2, and at the beginning we will have the opacity set to 0, and we'll also move it to the right a little bit. So let's type transform translate x, and we'll set it to 50 pixels. Right, now let's type search container quick links h2. So this is without the hide class. So let's type opacity to 1 and transform translate x to 0, and let's add a smooth transition. So I'll just type transition, and we will set it to all 400 milliseconds ease, and we will add a transition delay of 100 milliseconds. So let's test it out. So the animation is working alright. Now let's add the animation to all these list items. So let's type search container dot hide quick links ULLI, and let's set the transform to translate X, and we'll add 60 pixels over here, and also the opacity we'll set it to 0. And now let's type search container without the hide class quick links ULLI, and let's type opacity of 1 and transform translate X to 0, and let's add a transition. So I'll just type transition of all to 400 milliseconds ease. Now we need to add different transition delays for each of these list items. Now we can do that just like we did with the menu items. So let's type search container quick links ULLI colon nth of type, and let's type 1 over here. So for the first element we will have a transition delay of 120 milliseconds, and let's just copy this, and we have 5 elements. So let's copy this 4 more times. So for the second element we will have a transition delay of 140 milliseconds, and for the third one we will have a transition delay of 160 milliseconds, and for the fourth one we will have a transition delay of 180 milliseconds, and for the last one we will have a transition delay of 200 milliseconds. Alright, now let's test it out. And we can see that the animation is working alright. We don't have any problems with any of the animation. So that's it with the animation of the search container and also the menu items. Now in this video we will start designing the mobile version of this website. So let's get started. So here I'm in the apple.com website, and let's go ahead and see how the responsive versions are designed. So let's right click over here and click on inspect. And you can click on this button called toggle device toolbar. So I'm using the Google Chrome browser, and you can click on this button toggle device toolbar, and now you can decrease the width of your screen, and we can see this is the mobile version of the Apple website. But we have one more breakpoint. So here we can see we have a fixed width for all these menu items, but if you decrease the screen width we can see that it has 100% width. And now the space between each of these menu items is calculated based on the screen width. And when we are less than 768 pixels, we have this version right here. So first of all, let's add a breakpoint for this version where we have 100% width for the desktop nav, and the spacing between each of these menu items is decided based on the screen width. So let's go to our design, and let's go to the inspector. So right now we can see that when we decrease the width of the screen, the last menu item just cuts off, and so does the other menu items. So let's add a breakpoint. So we will add it at 1100 pixels. So let's go to the CSS, and we'll just add a comment. Now for adding breakpoints to the responsive design, we're going to use media queries. So let's add a comment. We'll just type media queries, and then you have to type at media, and then here you have to type the screen width. So I'll just type max width, and I will set it to 1100 pixels. So now if the width of the screen is less than 1100 pixels, all the code that is in here will be executed. Now if you scroll up and take a look at the CSS for the nav, so if you go to the HTML, we can see that we have this nav container, and in that we have the nav. And here in the style.css we can see that for the nav we have set a width of 1000 pixels. So now when we are less than 1100 pixels, we have to set the width to 100% of the parent. So let's type nav container nav, and we'll set the width to 100%, and we'll also add some padding to the sides. So I'll just type padding 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right we will have 32 pixels. Right now let's decrease the width, and now we can see that everything is working alright. So when the width is greater than 1100 pixels, we have a fixed width for the nav, but when we are less than 1100 pixels, we have 100% width for the nav. Alright, now the next breakpoint that we need to have is for 768 pixels. So I'll just decrease the size of the screen. Now before writing the media query for the 768 max width, let's add the mobile navigation. So in the Apple website, we can see we have three elements. One is the menu icon, and then we have the logo, and then we have the bag icon. So let's create a new unordered list for the mobile nav. So let's go back to the HTML, and here we can see for the desktop nav, we have this UL and we have this class desktop nav. So I'll just create one more UL here about the desktop nav, and we'll just give it a class of mobile nav. And in that we need to have three elements. So let's type li, and this is the first element, which is the menu icon. Now this is not just an image, so when we click on this, we can see that it changes to the close icon. So we have to create this using HTML and CSS. So for that, I'll just create a division over here, and I'll just give it a class of menu icon container. And in that we'll create a division with the class of menu icon. And here we'll create two spans for the two lines. So let's just type span, and we'll give it a class of line 1. And I'll just duplicate this, and I'll just give it a class of line 2. So these are going to be the two lines over here. Now when we click on this button, we're going to change the CSS and make it look like the close button. Right, the next thing we need to add is the logo. So let's create one more list item, and we'll just have an anchor tag, and we will give it a class of link logo. We had already added the styles for the link logo in the CSS. So here we can see for the link logo, we have the background image as the logo. We had done this in the previous tutorials. So now the next thing we need to add is this bag icon. So let's create one more li, and we'll create an anchor tag, and we'll just type class link bag. And we have added the CSS for this as well. So here we can see for the link bag, we have this background image bag icon. Now the next thing we will do is we want to hide this mobile nav in the desktop version. So let me just maximize this. Here we can see in the desktop version we have the mobile menu displayed. So let's just hide that in the style.css. So I'll just add some CSS for that. Here we'll just add a comment, hidden items. We had given it a class of mobile nav, and let's type display of none. And now we can see that the mobile nav is not being displayed in the desktop version. Now in the mobile version we want to display the mobile nav, but before that let's style these menu items. So let's go to the Apple website, and if I click on this menu icon, we can see that the menu items are displayed over here. So we have to change the layout of the menu items. Right now it is one next to the other. We have to bring it one below the other, and we also have to add some more styles to make it look like this. So let's do that first. So let's add a media query over here. So I'll just type @media max width of 768 pixels, and let's style the desktop nav. So all these menu items are from the desktop nav. So here we can see we have the desktop nav, and in that we have all these menu items. So let's go back to the style.css, and for the desktop nav we have set a display of flex. So if we go to the styles for the desktop nav, so here we can see we have set the display as flex. Now we can add a property called flex direction to column, so that all the elements will be one below the other. So let's type nav container desktop nav, and we will set the flex direction to column. Now let's set the position to fixed. So it will always be in a fixed position when it is active. And let's set the top position to 0 and the left position to 0. And we'll also set a width of 100% and a height of 100 viewport height. Let's set the background color as black. Now we had set justify content to space between in the desktop version because we wanted everything to have the correct amount of spacing. But for the mobile version, we don't want to have the space between the mobile version based on the screen height. So let's type justify content, and we'll set it to start. So now we can see it has the default spacing. And now we can add our own styles and make it look like this. Now at the beginning, we don't want to display these menu items. This is how it will look at the beginning. And when we click on the menu icon, we want to display the menu items. So by default, we will set the height of the desktop nav to 0 viewport height. And we'll also set the overflow to hidden so that anything outside the parent division will not be visible. And if we have an active class to the nav container, then we will display the desktop nav. So let's type nav container dot active, and let's type desktop nav, and here we will set the height to 100 viewport height. So let's go back to our HTML and let's add the active class to the nav container. And now we can see that the menu items are being displayed, and when we don't have the active class, it is not being displayed. So we will add and remove these classes using JavaScript. Alright, let's continue styling the menu items. So let's go back to our style.css, and now let's style the list items inside the UL. So let's type nav container desktop nav li, and right now we don't have a width of 100% for the list items. So if we give a background color, we can see it doesn't have a width of 100%. So let's type width of 100%, and we'll also give it a padding of 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right we will have a padding of 32 pixels. And let's remove the background color. Now we need to have some spacing at the top for the search form. So we will add a margin to the first element. So let's type nav container desktop nav li colon first child, and we will set a margin top of 120 pixels. Alright, now the next thing we will do is we will hide the logo, the search icon and the bag icon. So here we can see in the Apple website we don't have the logo, the search icon and the bag icon. It has the logo here at the top, but we are adding it as a different element. So if you go to the HTML, we can see we have created a different unordered list, and in that we have the menu icon, the logo and the bag icon. So we don't need to have the logo inside the desktop nav. So let's go back to our style.css and let's hide all those elements. So here I'll type nav container desktop nav dot link logo. So here in the HTML we can see we have this desktop nav, and in that we have this anchor tag with a class of link logo. So we'll do that with the link search and also the link bag. So let's go over here and let's add a comma, and I'll just type nav container desktop nav and link search, and we also want to have nav container desktop nav link bag. Right now for each of these elements I'll just type display of none. Right now we just have these elements. Now let's style all of these. So we'll target the anchor tags. So here I'll just type nav container desktop nav lia, and let's set a padding of 16 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right. And the padding is not being applied because these are anchor tags, and by default they are display of inline. So we had to change it to display of inline block. Let's also add a border bottom. So let's type border bottom, and we will type 1 pixel solid 616161, and we'll also change the width to 100%. Right now let's increase the font size a little bit. So I'll just type font size of 17 pixels. Alright, that's it with the anchor tags. Now let's go ahead and style the mobile nav. So we have created this UL with the class of mobile nav. So let's create a comment over here, mobile nav, and we'll just target it by typing nav mobile nav, and we'll set the display to flex. Now the mobile nav is not being displayed, so let's go to this desktop nav. So here we can see we have added some styles for the desktop nav. So here we have to have a negative z index. So I'll just type z index, and we'll just type -1. So now we can see that the mobile nav is being displayed. Now let's set the width to 100%. Now let's set the property justify content to space between, so that everything will have even amount of spacing. And we'll also remove the bullets. So I'll just type list style, and we'll just set it to none. Alright, now let's style the menu icon. So if you go back to the HTML, here we can see we have created a division with the class of menu icon container, and in that we have the menu icon division, and in that we have two spans with classes line 1 and line 2. So let's style this, and we'll make it look like this close button and also this menu icon. So let's go back to our CSS, and here we'll just type nav menu icon container, and we'll set the width to 20 pixels and the height to 44 pixels. And right now we cannot see anything because we haven't styled the lines yet. So I'll just give a background color so that we can see what is going on. Alright, let's set the display to flex, and we will align items to the center so that the icon will be in the center vertically. And we'll also set the cursor to pointer so that when we hover over this we have the pointer. But since we are using the responsive version of Chrome, we cannot see the pointer right now. Right now let's set the position of the menu icon to relative, because we're going to position the lines relative to the menu icon. So here I'll just type nav menu icon, and we'll set the position to relative, and we'll also set the width to 100% of the parent. Right now let's position the lines. So just type nav menu icon line 1, and we'll also target the line 2. So I'll just type nav menu icon line 2. Right now let's set their position to absolute, and let's set the height to 1 pixel, and we'll set the width to 100%, and let's set a background color of white. Right now we can see the lines are being displayed over here. Right now both the lines are the same position, so we can see just one line. So now let's remove this background color from here. Right now let's style each of these lines separately. So I'll just type nav menu icon line 1, and we'll set the top position to -4 pixels, and let's target the line 2. So I'll just type nav menu icon line 2, and we'll set the top position to 4 pixels. Alright, now let's set the style for when the menu is open. Now this is the icon when the menu is closed. Now when we open the menu, we have this icon over here, close icon. So let's add some styles for that. Now when someone clicks on the menu icon, we will set a class called active to the menu icon container, and when we have the active class to the menu icon container, we will add some styles to the lines so that it will look like this. So let's add the active class over here so that we can test it, and here we will type nav menu icon container dot active, and here we will type menu icon line 1, and we'll set the top position to 0, and now we need to rotate it. So I'll just type transform rotate Z, and we will rotate it 45 degrees, and let's copy this and add some styles for the line 2. So here we'll just change this to line 2, and for this we will rotate it -45 degrees. So now we have this close icon over here. Now when we remove the active class from the menu icon container, we have the other icon over here. Now in this video we will design the search form and also the quick links over here. So let's get started. Now this is the HTML of our website, and if you scroll down, we can see that there is already a division called search container, and in that we have the search bar and also the quick links. Now this is the search form and the quick links that we designed for the desktop version. Now even for the mobile version we have almost the same kind of markup. So if you go to the Apple website, we can see that we have this search icon over here, and then we have the search form, and if I click on that, we can see on the right we have the cancel button. So here in place of the link close, we need to have the cancel button. Now there are two ways to design this. You can use this same search container division over here for the mobile version, but for that you have to add one more class over here. For example, we can name it mobile show or something like that, and then you have to remove this hide class from here and add this mobile show class over here, and it can be a little confusing for us to design it using the same division that we have for the desktop version. So what we're going to do is we'll just copy this, and we will paste it over here once more, and for this we will give a class name of mobile search container. Now this will make it easier for us, so let's remove this hide class from here, and we're going to use this mobile search container as the search container for the mobile version. So let's go back to our website, and here we can see we already have the search form and the quick links displayed over here. Now we need to remove this link close from here because it is the close icon over here. So we don't want the close icon, we want this cancel button over here. So let's go over here and let's delete this division from here. So here we'll create a span, and we'll give it a class of cancel button, and here I'll just type cancel. Alright, so we have created the cancel button, and everything else will be as it is. Alright, so let's go to style.css and let's start styling it. First of all, we will style the search form, so let's just hide the quick links for now. So I'll just type quick links over here, and here I'll just target the quick links. So I'll just type mobile search container, and I'll type quick links, and I'll just set the display to none. Alright, so now let's start styling the search container. So here I'll just type search box. Alright, so now let's style the input field. So I'll just type mobile search container input, and let's set the width to 100%, and we will set a padding of 12 pixels top and bottom and 8 pixels left and right. Let's set the font family to Inter, and we'll also set the font size to 17 pixels. Now let's set the background color of 1B, 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 and we'll also remove the border. So I'll just type border 0, and we'll set the color of the text to white. Now let's have rounded corners. So I'll just type border radius, and we'll set it to 8 pixels. And when we click on this input field, we can see there is an outline. So let's remove that as well. So I'll just type outline, none. Now when we click on this, we don't have the outline. And I think for left and right, we need to have more padding. So I'll just replace 8 with, let's say, 36 pixels. Alright, now let's position this search icon on the left of the search bar. So let's target the container division. So here we can see we have this division with the class of mobile search container. And in that we have the link search, the search bar, and also the cancel button. So let's go over here and let's type mobile search container, and we'll set the position to relative. And now we can set the position of this icon to absolute. So let's do that. We'll just type mobile search container link search, and let's set the position to absolute, and we'll also give a padding left and right to this mobile search container. So here I'll just type padding 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right we will have 16 pixels of padding. Alright, now for the left position we will type 24 pixels, and we'll set the opacity to 0.5, and let's set the background size to 15 pixels. And I think that's it with the search icon. Right, now let's add some more styles to the mobile search container. So let's add a margin top of 10 pixels, and we'll also give it a border bottom, and let's set it to 1 pixel solid 616161. Alright, that's it with the search form. Now let's style the quick links. So if you go to the Apple website, and if I click on this search input field, we can see the quick links are being displayed over here. But we can also see that these two icons over here also move up. So we also have to style that. So for that we will add a class called move up to the nav. So let's go to the index.html file, and let's go over here to the nav, and here we'll just add a class called move up. And now let's style the move up class. So here I'll just type nav move up. So let's type nav container nav dot move up, and we will set a margin top of negative 40 pixels. And here we can see that our icons have moved up. Now when we click on the search input field, we also have this cancel button displayed over here at the right. So we will also add a class called active to the search bar. So let's go back to our index.html, and let's go to the search bar, and here we will add a class called active. So when we have the active class, we want to display the cancel button on the right. Now first of all, let's see where's the cancel button. So let's right click over here and inspect, and let's see where's the cancel button. So this is the cancel button, and we can see that it is below the search input field. Now we have to bring these two elements side by side. So for that we have to change the display of the parent container to flex. The parent container is the mobile search container. So let's add a display of flex. So here I'll just type display of flex. Now the cancel button is on the right, and now we also need to add some spacing below this search form. So here we will type padding bottom, and we will type 16 pixels. Right, now let's style the cancel button. So here I'll just type cancel button, and we'll type mobile search container cancel btn, and let's set the color of the text to 2997ff. Now we want it to be centered vertically, so let's go back to the container division, and here we'll also type align items to the center. Alright, let's go back to the cancel button, and let's set the font size to 17 pixels, and we'll set a padding of 0 pixels top and bottom and 16 pixels left and right. Right, now let's make the input field take up the maximum width it can. So right now we can see if we give a background color to the cancel button, we can see that there is some space here to the right, and the input field is not taking up that width. So for that, let's target the search form. So I'll just type mobile search container, and here we can see there are three elements: the link search, the search bar, and also the cancel button. So we'll target the search bar, and there's a property called flex, and we can set a value for the flex. So if we type flex 1 for one of these elements, and for all the other elements, if you don't have any value of flex, then this element will take up as much width as it can. So let's save it, and now we can see that it has the correct width. So let's remove this background color. Let's also add some more styles to this cancel button. So we'll set the font weight to 400, and we'll also set the cursor to pointer. Alright, now let's style the quick links. Now here we can see in the Apple website, when we click on this input field, these menu items move down and it just disappears. So for that we will add a class called move down to the desktop nav. And when we have the move down class for the desktop nav, we will move it down, and we'll also set the opacity of the menu items to 0. So let's go over here and let's add a comment. So I'll just type desktop nav move down, and here we'll just type nav desktop nav dot move down. And when we have the move down class for the desktop nav, we will move all these items down a little bit. So let's type li, and we'll target the first child, and here we'll just type margin top of 150 pixels. Alright, let's add the move down class to the desktop nav. So here we'll just add a class called move down, and now we can see that all the elements have moved down. Now let's also add opacity of 0. So let's type nav desktop nav dot move down li, and we'll just type opacity of 0, and we'll also set the pointer events to none so that no one can click on that. Right, now let's style the quick links. So let's type a comment quick links, and I think we have already added a style over here. So let's just cut this from here, and we'll paste it down here, and here we have already set the display to none, so let's remove it. Well, now we can see that the quick links are displayed over here. First of all, let's set the position to absolute. Now let's set the top position to 80 pixels, and let's set the left position to 0, right position to 0, so that it will have the full width, and let's set a padding of 32 pixels. Right, now let's style the unordered list. So let's type mobile search container quick links ul, and we'll set the width to 100%, and we will remove the bullets. So I'll just type list style, and we'll set it to none. And now let's style the h2. So let's type mobile search container quick links h2. So here you can see in the index.html we have this h2 called quick links. So let's style that. We'll set the color of the text to 86868b, and we will set the font size to 12 pixels, and we'll set the text transform to uppercase, and let's set the font weight to 400. Alright, now let's style the anchor tags. So let's type mobile search container quick links ullia, and let's set a padding of 16 pixels top and bottom, and 0 for left and right. And the padding is not being applied. That's because these anchor tags are inline elements. So let's change it to display of inline block. Right, now let's remove the underline. So let's type text decoration to none. Let's set the color of the text to white. Let's set the font size to 14 pixels, and we'll set the font weight to 400. We'll also add a border bottom of 1 pixel solid 616161, and we need to set the width to 100%. Alright, that's it with the search form and the quick links. In this video, we're going to add some JavaScript to make all the buttons work. And before that, we will add and remove some CSS classes and see whether everything is working alright. And after that, we will move to the JavaScript and add some event listeners and make everything work. So let's get started. Now the first thing I noticed over here is that when you hover over this, we have a different color in the Apple website. So let's go to the apple.com website, and we can see when we hover over this, we have a different color. So let's do that. So let's go to style.css, and let's see where is the quick links. So these are all the quick links. So here let's add mobile search container quick links ullia:hover, and we'll set the color of the text to 299ff. Right, now we can see we have the color. And there's one more thing we need to fix. So when we open the desktop version, we can see that the mobile search container is being displayed over here. Everything else is working alright. So we have to remove that from the desktop version. So let's go over here outside the media query, and here we can see we have hidden items, and we have already hidden the mobile nav. Let's add a comma, and I'll just type mobile search container, and now we can see that it is hidden. Now the first thing we will do is hide this cancel button by default. So if you go back to the Apple website, this is the default view of the search input field, and when we click on this, we have the cancel button displayed. So let's go ahead and set a width of 0 by default for the cancel button. So here we can see this is the mobile search container, and in that we have the cancel button over here. Now when we click on the search input field, we're going to add the active class. So when we have the active class, we're going to display the cancel button, and if you don't have the active class, we're going to remove the cancel button from here. So let's remove the active class from here. Now here we can still see the cancel button. So let's go back to style.css, and let's go to the styles for the cancel. So here we can see these are the styles for the cancel button. So here we will add a width of 0 pixels, and let's set the overflow to hidden, and we can still see the cancel button over here a little bit. So we have to remove the padding from here as well. So let's remove the padding from here, and we will add it to the active class. So here we will type mobile search container search bar dot active. So when we have the active class in the search bar, we're going to display the cancel button. So let's type cancel button, and we'll paste the padding over here, and we'll also set the width to some set value. So I just calculated, and 74 pixels seems to be the right width. So let's go back over here to HTML, and let's add the active class, and it is not being displayed. So let's go back to the CSS, and here we have to add a plus. So here we have to type plus, and now the cancel button is being displayed. Now the reason we have to add plus over here is because both these elements, that is the search bar and the cancel button, are siblings. So they are under the same parent. So we cannot add search bar active and dot cancel button. It will mean that the cancel button is inside the search bar, but since both the elements are one next to the other, we have to add a plus over here. So this is how the selector in the CSS works. So let's go ahead and remove the active class, and the cancel button is not being displayed, and when we add the active class, it is being displayed. Now the next thing we need to do is we want to display these quick links only if we have the active class inside the search bar. So here we can see in the Apple website, the quick links are not displayed by default. When we click on the search input field, we have the quick links displayed over here. So let's go back to the CSS, and let's go to quick links, and this is the CSS for the quick links. So let's go over here, and let's type mobile search container search bar dot active, and if you go back to the HTML, we can see that we have the search bar over here, and then we have the cancel button, and then we have the quick links. So both these elements are not one next to the other, we have an element in between. So for that we have to use the tilde symbol in your keyboard. So it is right next to the number 1 on your keyboard, and then you have to type the element. So let's type quick links. Now when we don't have the active class, we have to set the opacity to 0. So let's set opacity 0 over here in the selector without the active class, and we'll also set the pointer events to none so that no one can click on any of the links. And if you go back to the Apple website, we can see that when you click on this input field, the quick links are fading down. So initially we have to set it a little above the normal position. So let's set the top position to 10 pixels, and we'll remove this top from here, top 80 pixels, and we will add it to the active class, and we'll also set the opacity to 1 when we have the active class, and we'll also set the pointer events to auto. Alright, now let's remove the active class from the search bar, and now we can see that the cancel button and the quick links are not being displayed. Alright, now let's scroll up, and here for the desktop nav, we have added a class called move down. So let's remove it from here, and now we can see that the links are being displayed. And let's also remove the move up class from here for the nav. Right now we can see that this is how the menu will look when you first click on the menu icon. So this is the Apple website, and let's click on the menu icon, and this is how the menu looks at the beginning. We can see that everything looks alright. We just have to change this icon to the cross icon. So let's go back to style.css, and let's scroll up to the CSS of the icon. So here we can see this is where we are adding the CSS. Now here we have styled it in a way where we are gonna add the active class to the menu icon container. So this is the menu icon container, and if we add the active class over here, we can see that it has the cross icon. Now let's just remove this from here, and we will make it work with the active class inside the nav container. So when we click on this icon, we're going to add the active class to the nav container. So this element right here. So let's do that. So let's remove the active from here and also from here. And here we will type nav container dot active nav. So here we can see we have nav container, and in that we have the active class. We'll also do that over here. So let's type nav container dot active. Alright, now let's go back to the HTML and let's remove the active class from the nav container. And now we can see that we have the other icon, and when we add the active class, we have the menu items displayed over here, and also we have this close icon over here. Now let's remove the active class from here, and we still have this search form displayed over here. Now we have to remove that when we don't have the active class. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it 90 degrees so that it cannot be seen. So here in the Apple website we can see that it seems like it is being rotated. So we're going to do that. So let's go over here to style.css, and let's go to the styles for the mobile search container. So here we have it. So here by default we will set the transform rotate x to 90 degrees. Now we can see that the search container is not being displayed, and let's also add the active class. So let's type nav container dot active mobile search container, and here we will type transform rotate x 0 degrees. Alright, now let's add the active class over here, and now we can see that the search form is being displayed, and when we remove the active class, it is hidden. Alright, now for the last time, let's see what are the classes we need to add for all of these elements to work. So first of all, when we click on this menu icon, we want to add the active class to the nav container. So this is how it's gonna look. If you go back to the Apple website, when we click on the menu icon, we have this displayed over here. It is pretty similar in our website as well. I think we need to hide this bag icon when we have the active class. So here we have the bag icon, but when we click on this menu icon, we don't have it. So let's add some styles for that as well. So let's go back to style.css. So let's go over here and add a comment. We'll just type bag icon animation, and here we'll just type nav container dot active. And if you go back to the HTML, we can see we have this anchor tag with the class of link bag. So let's target that. We'll just type mobile nav link bag, and we will set the transform to translate y to 8 pixels. So we will move it down a little bit and also set the opacity to 0, and we'll also set the pointer events to none. Right now let's remove the active class, and here the bag icon is being displayed, but if we add the active class, it is not being displayed. So everything is working alright till here. Now let's add the move up class to the nav. So when we click on this, we need to move the nav up, and we also need to display these quick links, and we need to move the menu items down and hide it. So we have already created classes for that in the previous video. So let's add that over here. So just type class move up. So here we can see it has moved up, and we also have to set the class move down for the desktop nav. So here we'll just type move down, and then we also have to add the active class to the search bar inside the mobile search container. So here we'll just type active, and we have the quick links displayed over here. So everything is working alright. Now we just need to add and remove these classes using JavaScript. So let's remove all of these classes. So we have this move down class, let's remove that, and also the move up, and also the active class. Alright, now let's add and remove those classes using JavaScript. So we need to reference a couple of elements from the HTML. We need to reference the nav container because we want to add and remove the active class, and we also need to reference the menu icon container because when we click on the menu icon container, we want to add the active class to the nav container. So let's reference both of these elements from here. So let's go to main.js. Let's add a comment. We'll just type mobile version, and here we'll just type const menu icon container, and we'll set it to document.querySelector nav menu icon container, and we also need to access the nav container. So let's type const nav container equals document.querySelector nav container. Alright, now let's add an event listener to the menu icon container. So let's type menu icon container dot add event listener, and we will add the click event, and let's create an arrow function over here, and we need to add the active class to the nav container. So let's type nav container dot class list dot toggle active. So the first time we click on the menu icon container, we will add the active class, and when we click on it once again, it will remove the active class. So let's test it out. Let's click on this menu icon container, and we have the active class to the nav container, and let's click on it once again, and the class is being removed. So everything is working all right. Now if you right click over here and go to inspect, and let's open the responsive version, and now if you click on this icon, we can see that there is some background displayed over here of blue color. Now we will add one line of CSS to remove that. So let's go to style root CSS, and let's go to the end, and we'll just target some elements. So I'll just type input div span and anchor tag, and we have to type WebKit tab highlight color, and we have to set it to RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0. Right now when we click on this, we don't have the background color. Right, let's add some more event listeners. So when we click on this input field, we want to add the active class to the search bar, and also move up class to the nav, and also the move down class to the desktop nav. So let's reference all these elements from the HTML. So we need to basically reference the desktop nav and the search bar and also the nav. So let's go back to our JavaScript file, and let's type const search bar. We'll type document.querySelector, and here we'll type mobile search container search bar, and now let's reference the nav. So let's type const nav equals document.querySelector nav container nav, and we also need to reference the input field. So if you scroll down, here we can see we have this input field. When we click on this, we need to add the active class. So let's go back to our JavaScript file, and let's type const search input, and we'll type document.querySelector mobile search container input, and the last thing we need to reference is the desktop nav, but we have already referenced it over here. So here we can see we have already referenced it, so we can use this constant. Now let's add an event listener to the search input. So let's type search input dot add event listener. So let's add the click event over here, and let's create an arrow function. And when we click on the search input field, we need to add the active class to the search bar. So let's type search bar dot class list dot add active, and we need to add the move up class to the nav. So let's type nav dot class list dot add move up, and we also need to add the move down class to the desktop nav. So let's type desktop nav class list dot add move down, and when we click on the cancel button, we need to remove all these classes. So we also have to reference the cancel button. So here's the cancel button with the class of cancel btn. So let's reference that. So here I'll just type const cancel btn equals document.querySelector, and we'll type mobile search container cancel btn, and let's just copy this and paste it down here, and we'll just replace this with cancel button, and we'll just replace all the add with remove. Right now let's go ahead and test it out. So let's click on the menu icon, and we have the active class for the nav container, and let's click on the search input field, and we have the quick links displayed over here and also the cancel button. And when we click on the cancel button, we are taken back to this screen over here. So everything is working all right. Alright, so this is where we are right now. When we click on this menu button, we have the menu displayed over here, and when we click on this search input field, we have the quick links displayed over here, and when we click on the cancel button, it goes back to the menu, and when we click on the close button, the menu closes. So this is our progress as of now. Now let's go ahead and add the animations for all the elements. So let's go to the CSS file. The first thing we will do is add the animation to the desktop nav. So when we click on this menu button, the desktop nav is being displayed over here. So let's scroll up, and here we can see we have the styles for the desktop nav. And here we can see that when we add the active class to the nav container, we are adding a height of 100 viewport height to the desktop nav. So we will add a transition over here. So let's type transition, and we'll set a transition for all to 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second, and let's set the easing function to ease. Right now let's click on this menu button and see whether we have the animation, and we can see that the animation is working alright. The next thing we will do is add the animation to this link bag. So let's scroll down, and here we can see we have the CSS for the link bag, and when we click on this menu button, we are moving the link bag down a little bit and also setting the opacity to 0. So let's set the styles for the link bag before the active class. So I'll just copy this selector from here, and we'll just remove the active from here, and let's set the transition of all to 1000 milliseconds ease. Right now let's check it out, and we can see that the animation is working for the link bag. Now let's set the animation for the mobile search container. So when we click on this menu icon, we can see that it is being displayed in a flash. We want to have some animation. So let's scroll down, and here we can see we have the CSS for the mobile search container, and let's add a transition of all to 600 milliseconds ease. Right now let's test it out, and now when we click on this menu icon, we can see that there is the animation for the mobile search container, but the animation will look good if we move this search container down when we are animating it. So for that, let's add some margin. Now here we can see that we have added a margin of 10 pixels over here. So let's remove this from here and add it to the selector with the active class. So let's paste it over here, and here we will add a margin top of, let's say, negative 30 pixels, and let's see whether it works. And we can see that it looks alright. We'll also add some opacity over here. So here we will type opacity of 0, and in the active class we will set the opacity to 1. Right now let's test it out, and we can see that everything looks alright. Right now the next thing we will do is add the animation to these menu items over here. So let's scroll up, and let's take a look at the CSS. So here we can see we have added some CSS to the anchor tags. Now by default we will position these anchor tags a little bit to the top. So let's type transform translate y, and we'll set it to negative 80 pixels, and let's add some styles for the active class. So let's type nav container.active, and we'll type desktop nav lia. Right, so when we have the active class in the nav container, we want to add these styles to the anchor tag. So we'll set the transform translate y to 0 pixels, and we'll also add some opacity over here, and we'll set it to 0, and here we will set the opacity to 1, and we also need to add transition. So let's type transition, and I will set all to 700 milliseconds ease. Right now let's test it out. So let's click on this menu icon, and we can see that the animation is working for the menu items. Right now the next thing we will do is add the animation to the cancel button. So when we click on this input field, we can see that the cancel button is being displayed over here. So let's add a transition for that. So let's scroll down and search for the cancel button CSS, and here's the CSS for the cancel button. So here I'll just type transition, and we'll set all to 400 milliseconds ease, and let's test it. So let's click on this input field, and we can see that the cancel button is being displayed, and we also have the animation. Now we also need to add the transition for the nav element. So when we click on the search input field, we can see that it is moving up. So let's search for the nav, and I think we don't have any selectors for the nav, so let's add one over here. So let's type nav animation, and here we'll just type nav container nav, and we'll set a transition of all to 400 milliseconds ease. Now let's click on this input field, and we have the transition for the nav element. Now let's add the animation to the quick links. So here we can see the quick links are being displayed over here when we click on this input field. So let's scroll up, and here we can see we have the CSS for the quick links. So here I'll just set a transition of all to 400 milliseconds ease. So let's test it out. And we can see that the animation is working for the quick links. We'll also add some delay for the animation of the quick links. So when we have the active class, we will set the transition delay to 40 milliseconds. So here we can see we have a little bit of delay when we click on this search input field. I'll just make it some bigger value so that we can see the delay. So let's click over here, and we can see we have a delay of 1000 milliseconds. So let's change it back to 40 milliseconds. Alright, now the last thing we need to animate is this menu icon. So when we click on this, we can see that it is changing to a different icon, and now it is changing to the close icon. We also want to have a transition between these two icons. So let's scroll up and let's go to the CSS for the menu icons. So here we have the CSS for the line 1 and the line 2. Now let's add a transition over here, and let's type all to 400 milliseconds and ease. And now if we click on this menu icon, we can see that the animation is working. But we don't want this type of animation. So let's go to the Apple website and let's click on this menu icon. And we have a different kind of animation over here. So first of all, it is animating the translate property, and then it is animating the rotation. So here we can see. So let's try to do that. So we need to have two different transition delays for two different properties. So let's remove this from here. And for that we'll type transition property, and here we will specify the two different properties. Now here we are writing the CSS for when it comes back to this menu. So right now we are in this menu right here. So the first thing we need to animate is the rotation. So here we can see for rotation we are using the transform property. So let's type that over here, transform. And the second thing we need to animate is the top property. So this one right here. So let's type that over here. Alright, now let's set different transition delays for these two different properties. So let's type transition delay, and we want to have 0 milliseconds delay for the transform, and let's add a comma. And for the top we will add a transition delay of 160 milliseconds, and let's also set the transition duration, and we'll set it to 200 milliseconds. Right now let's click on this close icon, and we can see that the animation is working alright for the close icon. Right now let's add the animation for when we transition from this icon to the close icon. Right now we don't have the correct animation, so let's click on this menu icon, and it is not being animated correctly. So let's copy these 3 lines of CSS and let's scroll down, and here we have the CSS for the active class. So let's paste it over here, and we'll just type top over here at the beginning, and then we have transform. Because when we animate from this icon to the close icon, first we need to add the animation for the top, and then we need to add the animation for the transform, that is the rotate. So let's copy this and paste it down here as well. Right now let's click on this menu icon, and we can see that everything is working alright. We don't have any problems. So that's basically how you design the Apple navigation menu from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Right now let's test everything out. Here we have the desktop version, and when we hover over this we have the white color for these menu items. And let's click on this search icon, and we have the animation for this search container over here. And when we hover over this, the color changes. And let's click on the close button, and we have the animation for the menu items, and also the search container is hidden. Let's click on the search container once more, and now if we click somewhere outside the search container, it is hidden. So everything is working alright for the desktop version. Let's open the mobile version once more. Now here we have an issue when we switch to the mobile version. We can see that there is an animation running for the desktop nav. So let's go to the CSS of the desktop nav, and here we can see for the desktop version we have set a height of 100%. So let's remove that. Now it should work alright. So let's switch to the mobile version, and everything is working alright. Let's click on this menu icon, and we have the menu items displayed over here. And let's click on this search input field, and we have the quick links displayed over here. So everything is working alright. So that's it with this series where we have designed the Apple navigation menu from scratch. I will leave the link of the source code in the description of this video. I will also leave the link of the complete playlist in the description of this video. And if you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.